do you do, fellow kids? What do you do, fellow kids?
Hey, what's up, everybody? We are here. We are live. We're something. I don't know. This is ScreenGeeks Radio Live. This is Dave.
And this is Barry.
Holy cow, we're actually doing this, man. Can you believe it?
Man, we're back.
Don't call it a comeback. Wait, no, we haven't been here for years. That's the problem. Thanks so much for joining us, all of you who do. Hopefully we're actually going live right now. I guess I should check that. Yeah, it looks like we are. And yeah, how you been, man? It's been a little while.
I'm good, man. No turning back now. Wow.
Yeah, it's only been 8.5 years. You see anything good?
No, not a thing.
So you have moved across the ocean to get away from me.
After 6 years of ScreenGeeks, I'm like, I got to get away from this.
That's
enough. I must run as far as I can. No, you and I did it for 6 years, and I had a blast. And over time, it was just one of these things where I got too busy to be able to go to your house every Sunday like I would normally do. And then you and I just things just got really, really wonky for us in a good way. You wound up moving, and of course you have your gorgeous daughter. I moved to Maui, and in addition to all the things that have happened over here, I ended up becoming a father too, which, my dramatic story is we didn't even think we could have children, and lo and behold, we're here for one year, and Julia becomes pregnant. It's like, oh my gosh, this is it's not that we didn't want this. It was just we didn't think it was ever a possibility. So she is our miracle baby. And in addition to that, I'm teaching film classes and doing film reviews. And my buddy Greg and I started a podcast called the Nerd Watch Podcast, which has become a cult favorite here on the Valley Isle. So yeah, man, things are good. How about with you?
I think we should be a little more open about what happened. Like it's now. Hey, D Quartermain, thanks so much for joining us, man. I appreciate it. Yes, it's fun to be back. I don't want to sugarcoat us hanging out or not or whatever. Let's be honest. A lot of we're gonna get real and deep and heavy right off the bat. Just
oh boy,
because it's
Oprah moment. Here we go.
That sounded way worse than I meant it to. Sorry about that. We both kind of had a rough go of things, especially when Josh passed. Yes. For those of you who don't know, Josh Green was our third compadre, actually. 3rd/4th, along with Ethan Vespi, who's still doing his stuff. And when he passed, I know he kept going for like another year or so, but it was kind of hard for us to get the gumption up. And I know personally on my end, I was in a job that I absolutely hated and despised. So it was like sucking the soul out of me. And I just kind of lost the will to do the show. And I think both of us just kind of got in that pod fade kind of place.
Yeah, no argument here, Dave. And I was teaching at UCCS and I loved it, but I also went as far as I could go with that job. And I say that respectfully, I loved my time there. I loved my students. I loved my department. But I also realized that, I grew up on Maui, and I'd love to do, I told Jules, I want to be able to do what I can do on Maui, because in Colorado, guys like me teaching film are a dime a dozen, but out here it's just different. And I really wanted to get a film program started. And thankfully with my good friend Brian Cohn, who's a writer director, he did this really wonderful independent movie called Kuleana. We were able to basically get this film program going. We have a creative media department at UHMC. But to go back to Colorado, it was very painful to lose Josh, and I liked that we tried for a while to keep the podcast going. We had his lovely fiancée on with us for a number of episodes, and she was fantastic. But I think for reasons that were very obvious, it was too hard for her to keep doing that.
Absolutely, and it looks like Melissa's actually got a family and often living a fantastic life, and I love seeing that.
Yeah. Obviously, we wish her the best as well. And the thing with Ethan was definitely a different thing, and we really enjoyed our time with Ethan as well. It was good, but yeah, no, I don't know. Like for me, it was always about the geography, just because it was just being able to get over there every Sunday, and just with the stuff I was juggling in my life. Because I was really enjoying it, as you were too. But but you are right. I mean, it was so hard to lose Josh because he was a key component. He was definitely the third of the three amigos. Like yourself, we always talk about like how we think about him all the time. He's constantly in our thoughts. There's songs on the radio, movies we run past, and it's like, oh yeah, it's like he's very, very near and dear to us, and still is. And yeah, he was very much a part of ScreenGeeks. So it was. I completely agree with you. It was hard to kind of figure out who we were. You gave me a block of old ScreenGeek episodes, and I find myself listening to them because it's like, man, like he was so freaking funny, and he really was like. We really had this really wonderful dynamic going.
Absolutely, yeah, and so go in a little more detail what you've done since moving to the fantastic island of Maui.
It's moving to the Valley Isle. Well, I came here and I naively thought, I'm gonna, I have all this experience doing film classes in Colorado Springs, so naturally it's gonna just like the doors are gonna come flying open over here. No, it took years to kind of find my niche, and that was pretty much because my buddy Brian, as I said, he. Being a local independent filmmaker and managed to kind of get his foot in the door at our wonderful university, and he got the creative media department going, and I and he was like, want to join? I'm like, yes please. So I come running in after him, and I'm teaching film classes right now. I'm just about to finish my history of mass media class, and I also have a horror film class that I'm going to be teaching in the fall, which I'm looking forward to.
Sweet.
Yeah, but let's see. I'm writing.
I have to. Wait, what was that? I gotta ask what that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, just I'm just tossing, doing a little basket toss to the side. Sorry.
Oh, fair enough. Okay. I thought you were throwing something for the dog or something.
I'm hoping you didn't see that. Let's see. What else am I doing? I'm writing for a local online site called Maui Watch, which I do theater reviews for that. And since there's no theater at the moment, not to get too topical immediately, but since there's no theater, so I'm not doing a lot of that. But for Maui Time, the newspaper I've been writing for since 2008, I continue to do film reviews for them. And since we're all kind of stuck indoors, it's fun. My column has become less about movies that are playing in theaters and more about streaming options. So I have a column called Barry's Streaming Cinema, and I talk about the films that are online and available that people need to check out. I got to write an article about Ink.
I saw that.
Coolest thing, be able to write about Jamin Winans, our friend Jamin Winans, this brilliant film that he did in 2009. I think it's been that long now. This brilliant movie, Ink, and I just happened to see it. It popped up on Amazon Prime, and I rewatched it. And like, this movie is even better than I remember. What a thrill to be able to write about that for a Maui newspaper. Yeah, so I think. Oh, and the last thing I'm doing is I have a TV show for local Maui station. It's called Akaku. It's kind of our PBS equivalent. And I co-host this show called What's Going On, talking about all the movies, theater, and film events on Maui from a week-to-week basis. And we show clips. And it's myself and my co-host, Joel Agnew, who's a real piece of work. He's a local radio legend. He's in his 70s. He's absolutely insane. And I've been doing that for a couple of years now, and it's been fun.
Right on. Is there any way for anyone on the mainland or internationally or whatever to catch any of the stuff you're working on? I know this is like an interview, folks. It's not going to be an interview, I promise. Just trying to catch up.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, if you go to akaku.org, they have like all of my What's Going On episodes. If you want to watch me awkwardly stumble my way through 55 minutes of television, it's crazy, Dave. It's like this. We do it all in one sitting. So like, we'll show the clips, but we're just sitting there waiting for the clips to end. So it's like it's live to tape. So yeah, it's like radio. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's like, oh God. But yeah, that's available on akaku.org. My movie reviews are up on Rotten Tomatoes. Also, Hollywood and Toto, the site run by our dear friend Christian Toto, one of the founders of the Denver Film Critics Society. I write for Christian's site. I've got an article right now up on Brian De Palma's The Fury. And then yeah, MauiWatch.com. That's where all my theater reviews and some movie reviews are at. And I think that's it. Yeah.
Right on. I'm trying to think. I have done far less. That's why I wanted to start with you, because it's far more impressive than what I've been doing.
You've been busy, man. No,
I've been working.
You've got a fantastic little girl.
Yes. We have a little 6-year-old named Abigail, who is wonderful. And I've still stayed somewhat in film community stuff around the Denver area. We actually moved up to the Denver metro area. And let's see, I spent 7 years working the media department at Starfest. So we did interviews for years with them, and I kept working with them for a bit. And then I ended up swinging over to Denver Comic Con, being the programming coordinator for the Real Heroes Filmmaker series, and got to meet some really cool folks and make some good friends. And I'm hoping to rope some of them into doing interviews for this channel or for the podcast. And, it's been about 6 months. We've been talking about, we're starting to feel the itch again. We kind of miss doing this. And I just asked you at one point, I'm like, what would you think about it? And I don't think I even finished the sentence before you said, I'm in. So now, of course, the timing could not possibly be better for us to be talking about the greatest film releases that could be coming out right now.
No kidding.
What was the last movie you saw in the theater?
It was The Hunt, and it was one of the best movie-going experiences I ever had, because I caught it. It was before, the quarantine. Everything was like the few days leading up to that. It was just when the scare was in the air and everybody was kind of, realizing this was a big deal. So I thought, well, I don't know when the next time I'm going to be able to go to a movie is. So I went to the Queen Kahumanu Theater, which is, by the way, a theater I was an usher at during the summer of '97. I have such fond memories of this theater. I go there, and it's for 10:30. It's like the 10:30 showing of The Hunt. So, and this is opening weekend. And I go there, like, okay, so just, there's a few additional policies. You're not allowed to sit next to anybody. There has to be a space between you and someone else. No assigned seating anymore. You can sit wherever you want. So just like make yourself comfortable. And, we ask that you, just don't talk to anybody else, just like, be cool. And I'm like, this is fantastic. Can this be an always thing? Like,
it takes the movie theater's church to a whole new level.
Yeah, this is fantastic. So sure enough, I go into the theater, and there's no one there. I'm the only one there in the whole theater. But like, I go into the theater, and man, the place, like the intense smell of Lysol, like, man, they wiped this theater down. Like, the theater's like, not to say that it was ever dirty theater. I love that theater, but like, the theater's never been cleaner. It's never been a tighter ship. I had a great time watching a terrible film. I hated The Hunt. But I got to say, like, at least like the last time I went to a movie theater, it was such a great experience. I can't wait to go back. So.
Nice. The last one that I end up catching. There we go. Let's tweak the audio just a little bit. We saw it was a Harley Quinn and Birds of Prey. Sorry.
Birds of Prey.
And it was a fun time. I don't know that I'm thrilled it was the last movie I saw in the theater, but here we are. And since then we saw, I have a 6-year-old, so obviously we watched Onward the weekend it hit Disney Plus. I don't know. Did you take the bullet and pick up Trolls World Tour for your daughter?
No, I did not. No, I haven't seen Onward. I haven't seen Trolls 2. I try to make it a habit not to watch things I normally wouldn't watch. Everybody's going, have you seen Tiger King? I'm like, no, I haven't seen Tiger King. I wouldn't watch Tiger King. My
heart right there.
14, not in quarantine. I would never watch that. And I watched like the trailer. I'm like, wow, I can't believe this is like sweeping the nation. This is moronic television. This is like when the Anna Nicole show was like the biggest thing on TV, and everyone was like, haha, look at Anna Nicole. Like, no, this is awful. Well, so no, I haven't seen Onward, which honestly I just didn't have any interest in, although I've heard it's good.
It is.
No interest in Trolls, because I did not like the first one at all. I love the Justin Timberlake song, don't like the movie. And I already suffered through The Hunt. So the things that have come out on online that I've really enjoyed streaming, Netflix released this brilliant documentary called Crip Camp. It's an amazing documentary. The less you know about it, the better. It's one of these documentaries where it's like if they made a movie out of it, you would say this is the most far-fetched thing. There's no way this could be real. The footage of Crip Camp, it's about this camp of disabled kids, and it's run by these pot-smoking hippies. And these kids, after they've been at this camp, they feel empowered. They're just like, they become these activists later on in life. And it begins at their experience at this camp where they're not judged, where they're able to be with each other. Anyway, it's on Netflix. It won an audience award at Sundance in January. It's one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. I know that sounds like hyperbole, but it's that good. It's a 5-star movie. It's fantastic.
Sweet.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of really great stuff out there. Like someone the other day was telling me, like, have you seen the new Chris Hemsworth movie Extraction on Netflix? Like, no, that looks terrible. I wouldn't go see that in the theater. I'm not going to watch it on Netflix. But there are some good stuff out there, and I find most of the stuff that's really good that's on streaming are the movies that are a little older. And it's been fun to kind of like, go through the treasure chest and, find some really great movies. There's one of my favorites from the 80s, because everybody's on this 80s kick now with Stranger Things and whatnot. Explore the Joe Dante film.
Yeah.
It is on Canopy. I think it's on Netflix and Hulu. I'm not sure. But anyway, Explorers is like one of these movies that's an option. So is Dragon Slayer, like some really great off the beaten track movies that people have missed the first time.
Cool. I'm trying to think what all we saw recently. I saw The Way Back, which is like the most. It's like if Disney did a sports movie,
yeah,
with a zillion F-bombs.
Lots of them.
Yeah. And it was good. It was a really good performance from Ben Affleck. It seemed like it was very personal. It's something I really appreciated. But for the most part, like the challenge is like you're talking about Tiger King. I have no interest in seeing it either. However, I think it hit at just the right time, because just as the pandemic is starting, the last thing that anyone's going to want to watch is the movie that I really wanted to tell people they need to see right now, because it just came out. It's this fantastic Terrence Malick film called A Hidden Life, and it was just so stinking heavy. I still think everyone should see it. I'm shocked that it's gotten no love from last year.
Yeah.
But I think it's just we're not quite ready to be delving into the deeper depths of humanity, or people are watching Contagion. Like it's either something really light or like how bad can this go? And there's not people are going to deal with this however they're going to deal with it. But it's just like I can't really recommend a movie that's a deep philosophical dive into what it's like when everyone who shares your values theoretically changes how they act, and you have how do you react to that, and how do you interact with these people who you love. And it's just too heady for right now.
Sure.
It's just starting to feel like now it might be a decent time to dig into that kind of stuff again.
I agree with you, Dave. Like when this all started to happen, it seems like everybody went right towards Outbreak and Contagion. And I'm going, no, I don't want to watch these movies. Like I saw them both in the theater. They both really freaked me out. Outbreak in particular, there's the scene in Outbreak. I've only seen it once, by the way. I saw it the day it opened. I haven't gone back. It's an excellent movie. I mean, it's a 4-star movie. Outbreak is terrific. But there's that scene in a movie theater where someone coughs, and like there's the CGI trajectory of the phlegm flying through the theater, and it winds up in someone's mouth. I don't want to watch that again. Like that's not fun right now,
What's even worse is that when inevitably someone in the theater coughed very shortly thereafter, kind of like when someone yawns, and everyone just kind of gives that person the stink eye. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No, the movie involving a viral outbreak that I did revisit. In fact, I wrote an article about it for a Christian site. I looked at 12 Monkeys. 12 Monkeys is. I found it to be, even though it's a very bleak film about a viral outbreak and it wipes out most of humankind, it's a very whimsical film. And it also, there's something very hopeful about the way it depicts humanity trying to pick up the pieces of what they have and also fumble their way through time travel. I love that film. It's one of my favorite Gilliam films. And I found that was the one I want to go back to. I'm not going to be watching Terminator right now. I don't want to watch all these like movies where, humankind is struggling for survival. I mean, we're not, obviously it's not, I don't think it's on that level really, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't find those kinds of movies especially helpful right now.
That's fair. However, I did watch Dark Fate and I dug the ever-loving crap out of it.
That's a fun movie. I like Dark Fate too.
Yeah, and D Quartermain, I appreciate you commenting in the comments. I'll catch up just a little bit. You're not flooding. Flood away, man. It's all good. It says, cool for your classes, Barry and Ink. Explorers shout out. And then I'm not going to flood the comments, but this feels like old times in the best kind of way. Honestly, dude, like if you're the only person watching right now, that does my heart good. I'm sure it's the same thing for you, Barry.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, it's all good. I was going to say something. Oh, and a bit's changed in the landscape in the past 8.5 years. I think that's pretty fair to say. Just recently, so. I picked up an Oculus Quest at the beginning of the year, and the Tribeca Film Festival, since they had to cancel, put out a bunch of their virtual projects out on the Quest Oculus TV. And it's really showing that virtual reality content is starting to find its footing, I think. The one I saw for sure for that first was, I forget the title, I do apologize for that, but it was about the first trip to the moon with Neil Armstrong, and seeing the ship fly by as you're like, you can literally as I drop off mic, you can watch it fly by, and then it takes you in the cockpit, so you can like literally look around the entire cockpit and see just how cramped it was in there.
Oh
and they get actors to reenact all the gentlemen who were on that flight. And when you're out in the moon and you can look around the moon around you, as well as seeing the guy in front of the two astronauts out in front of you, it's a really magnificent experience. There's another short that's actually still available. Most of the Tribeca stuff's gone, but Oculus has done this thing called VR for Good. And there's one, I think it was called Hate. It's something around a young lady who joins a hate group, how she got roped into being a skinhead. And it's interesting because my question's always been, if you're going to do virtual reality content, how do you frame it like you would with a movie, but still give everyone the opportunity to look around? Yeah. And essentially they stage it like you're sitting in the middle, you're in this girl's room as she's acting out. So the focal point when the scene comes up is right in front of her. But then you can look off to the right and see all the posters that were Rancid and all these punk bands before that have gone all white power. And it just adds more context to what you're watching. And I'm really interested to see what virtual content does in the future. I've been playing a little bit of Half-Life Alyx 2, which looks amazing.
Nice.
But yeah,
it's starting. I'm going to do a little Blair Witch action right now. I apologize. I gotta let my dog outside.
It's okay. I'm scared to see what's going to happen behind you. That's all I know. If I see a guy standing facing the corner, I'm bouncing. I'm just saying.
Sorry, some Cloverfield action. Run!
No, we can't have that. Trying to think what else has been going on. Oh, I did get to host a fan event for the Freeform Network a few years ago, and for the interesting show. Did you ever see Shadowhunters?
No.
Don't. It's kind of a CW type show of pretty people who are vampires or werewolves, and it has Isaiah Mustafa from the Old Spice commercials. We'll just say probably best known. And really? I got to host because
now I got to see it.
Yeah, it's on Hulu, I think, because it's on Freeform Network. But Christian actually got asked, the aforementioned Christian Toto was asked, hey, can you host this event? And he's like, no, but I'd have this buddy Dave who could probably be really good at it. And I was like, oh goodness, well, let me watch this show. Oh no. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying we're probably not the target demographic. It's probably fair to say. But there was this other show that they were premiering called Beyond. And you saw me go nuts on the Facebooks and stuff when it came out. Yeah. And I got to watch the first season ahead of time. I was like, holy crap, I've got to meet this guy. I will do this, whatever you need to do. And I get to meet Isaiah Mustafa, who just, I think, a year or two beforehand had self-produced a trailer of him being Luke Cage before the show was actually cast. And I was like, how am I not going to want to talk to this guy? Yeah. And got to do that. It was very interesting being on the stage at the Bluebird Theater in a room full of screaming young women. You know the bad MC thing where like, I can't hear you, and everyone screams louder. I almost went deaf when I just said, hey, how are you doing? So that was enough of that. But it was really cool getting to meet some folks and do that, and have done some other stuff for Christian as well. Did an interview with Dean Devlin when Bad Samaritan was coming out.
That's right. Yeah.
Which is guys, if you want to see if you want to see David Tennant kind of going the full-on Jessica Jones bad guy again, it's a good watch. I'm not going to spoil anything else. He's just a really bad man. I'm trying to think. Follow up with
Dean Devlin's story. There's a great.
Oh,
I love this, Dave. You got to mention that. That's awesome.
Okay, so a few months later, we ended up taking going out to California. I won't get into all the details because some of them are sad, but we ended up going to Disneyland as part of that trip. And on the second day, we were walking around, and who did I run into but literally Dean Devlin? And I this was in April, so we went in October, and I ran into him like, hey, I told Steph, go on, I'll catch up just a minute. I've got to just say hi to this guy. Because they did a screening at Starfest when they came out to do the interviews, but I didn't get a chance to talk to him. So I just flagged him down. Not flagged him down, because you don't want to freak someone out when they're a semi-famous person. Just like, excuse me, Mr. Devlin? He's like, oh, God, yes? I was like, hey, I'm sure you don't remember. We had a chance to talk in Denver at Starfest. I just really enjoyed Bad Samaritan. I just hope you're doing well. I just want to say how much I enjoyed that movie. Oh, well, thanks. And then we went about our way. And then there's a coda to the coda. Did I tell you the coda to the coda?
I don't think so. No.
Okay, so the last ride of our trip was on the teacups because that's the one my daughter's been looking forward to the most. We finally got in the line to do it. And I took video of it. And I'm like, oh, this is great. It's wonderful. Wait, who's that sitting over Abby's shoulder? Oh, boy. It's Dean Devlin in like a Dragon Ball Z costume with his family riding the teacups. I'll have to get you the clip. I was just like, oh, God, please don't let him think I'm a stalker. Please, no.
I don't know. It sounds like Dean Devlin was stalking you. Really.
Sure, something like that.
You like my show? Let's follow him.
Yes, and yes, D. I adore Leverage. We're not going to be doing news in the long term, but I have a rant about Leverage coming back. I forget. Did you ever watch that show, Barry?
No, I know the show, but I never watched it.
Okay, so spoilers for Wait, is someone calling me? Oh, it's an Amber Alert. Oh boy. Okay. Wow. All right. That's a great thing to say in the middle of a live stream, let me tell you. And then go back to talking about movies, but that's exactly what I'm going to do. So there's been an announcement that Leverage Volume 2 is coming out. For obviously understandable reasons, Timothy Hutton will not be coming back. I think that's fair to say. I don't know if you've seen the news coverage.
I've seen different things about Mr. Hutton. But
Okay.
Yeah, I know what you're referring to.
Yeah, so we don't need to give them coverage.
Yeah,
So they're bringing in Noah Wiley to take his place from the Librarians. And
yeah, I love that you went straight to the librarian. I would have said ER fame or Donnie Darko, but you went straight to the librarian.
Well, it's in the same production universe. Dean Devlin's behind both of them, so
Yeah.
I am glad the show's coming back. I'm glad Christian Kane's coming back. Beth Riesgraff's coming back. The way the show left off, and this is going to be the spoilers for again the next 30 seconds or so, was they left Beth Riesgraff's character Parker as the person running the crew. Now, we've been doing a run-through. Steph and I have been doing a run-through at night after Abby goes to bed. We'll rotate shows and Leverage. We've been doing another watch-through. And we're in season 3, and we're starting to see already, the show went 5 seasons, but in season 3, they're already starting to establish her as learning about how to run her own crew and how to be the person to run everything. And it's like the show ends with 2 of the main characters leaving, and now one of them's coming back for the second one. And it's like, well, wait a minute. I thought Parker was running the crew. So I'm a little bummed that they're not going to follow through on that potentially. I hope they figure out a really good reason to explain why it didn't happen, because they darn well better. But I'm excited that it's coming back eventually. Now, granted, Aldous Hodge is not going to be around as much because he's kind of blown up in the ensuing years since then. He's come a long way from being one of Zeus's kids in Die Hard with a Vengeance. We'll put it that way.
My one Timothy Hutton question: will they be able to write him out like organically, or is this something that's going to be really forced?
I have no idea. This got announced like 2 or 3 weeks ago, so I don't think anyone has any idea how it's going to go yet.
Gotcha.
But now we're kind of catching up. Like I think D Quartermain's the one person in the chat room right now, which is all good. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But okay, just doing that real quick. I'm glad you agree with me that Parker needs to be the leader. If anyone has questions while we're talking, we're going to stop and just answer whatever. Like, this is very much a Q&A type thing. I've got the Twitch chat up, which I think Twitch is going. Let me double check that. Are we live? Oh, okay. Larry's on Twitch. Okay. I am. Hey, Larry. All right. I don't know why that didn't come up. Oh, my goodness me. Let me see if I can get
Larry.
that. Larry comes over from the wonderful world of Junk Food Cinema. And
awesome.
we are both Junkions. We actually met through that show. And I should say, give a shout out. Junk Food Cinema has been one of the shows I've been listening to since we podfaded. Them and Slash Filmcast have kind of been my primary ones. But we were actually able to get Brian and Cargill out for Denver Comic Con in 2018 and got to hang out with them. And that was a heck of a good time.
Cool.
Yes, I forget what I was saying, though. Go ahead and stop us. Leverage. Yes, I was talking about Leverage. I'm good with Leverage. It's all good. What time is it at? Okay, so we got a half hour still to kill. We're just kind of catching up in general. Is there anything that really caught you in the time that we've been gone? We've had the Marvel Cinematic Universe become a thing since we've been gone. We've had the Fast and Furious franchise become the Marvel Cinematic Universe before there was a Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah. We have John Wick coming about. Talk about time that, good God, would Josh have loved every single one of those things.
Yeah, and not to get too bleak, but I think I felt that immediately because when again, not to get too dark here, but when his health, when he was in the hospital during that really painful period, it was the weekend that Inglorious Bastards opened up, and I remember like, you know, I just thought, my gosh, man, you would love this movie. And I remember like numerous times being at his bedside, like man, when you get out of this thing, man, you're gonna love this movie. And I was like telling him parts of it and like feeding him lines, like it's so good, it's so good, you're gonna love this.
So I told you,
He was such a film buff, and like that was one of the things I always loved about our show is that we were able to like kind of capitalize on all the stuff that we were, not capitalize, but we were able to just geek out constantly about the stuff we were looking forward to. That's also, by the way, without completely sidetracking, that's the one thing I hate about listening to old ScreenGeeks episodes. It's like, man, I was really looking forward to that Watchmen movie, man. I was like, I really thought that was going to be like the greatest comic book movie of all time. And I think I said so numerous times in that episode. I was really big on that Sherlock Holmes movie with Robert Downey Jr. I was certain that was going to be a masterpiece. Some of those episodes are a little embarrassing to listen to for that reason, but I digress.
yeah. So okay. So speaking of things that we were excited for, I've been going back. We're gonna have Josh be a part of every episode. There's one clip in particular I'm looking for with his signature laugh. The problem is every time I find one of those clips, we're laughing too. So it's kind of hard to find that isolated.
It was such a funny laugh.
It was. Yeah. But just so at his wake, I don't remember if I told you this story or not. I was speaking with his brother Cody. And we were just kind of, catching up a little bit and stuff. And he was just talking about how, I'm really just sad that Josh is gone and, just kind of bummed. And there was this older lady standing behind him, just kind of like looking on at our interaction, just kind of really taking it in. It's like, yeah. And he said, yeah, he would have totally loved Inglourious Bastards. And this lady just goes from, it kind of gives this little disgusted look and walks away. But I'm like, that is exactly the kind of moment he would have appreciated. So I just had to share that. I went back listening to the In Memoriam episode and just I was like, I didn't share that story, so I have to share it now. Is there what else are you guys watching right now? Like, I know your movie watching habits have probably changed since having a little one.
Yeah. And to actually address the question that you threw out before, I mean, like since we stopped doing this in 2012, the movie, I think over the past couple of years, that's very applicable for ScreenGeeks that I was so intensely anticipating, and it surpassed all my expectations. That would be Blade Runner 2049. I love that movie. I think the first one is probably the better film, but I prefer 2049. I think it's one of the best sequels ever made. I think the director Denis Villeneuve was able to somehow bring us back into that world in a way that was really profound and very real and unforced. He somehow managed to make a movie that's every bit as challenging and polarizing and strange and divisive as the first film was. I like that it didn't answer the very basic question of whether Deckard is a replicant or not. It kind of teased us with that. It told us, but it didn't really tell us, not really. I thought bringing back Harrison Ford was wonderful because how engaged and dialed in he was. And there's so many performances in that movie I loved. I just adore that film. I love that filmmaker. He's got Dune coming out this Christmas. That's the movie I'm most excited about this year. As we've spoken about on this podcast many times, sci-fi, for me, if sci-fi is like horror, it's a chance for a director to show what they've got because there's world building involved. There's establishing the mood, establishing the rules, establishing the logic of it. So I love sci-fi and horror for those reasons. I feel like it's a real director genre, and I feel like this guy Denis Villeneuve, it's like I'm not going to call him the new Kubrick. It's a little early for that, but he is one of these guys who just really gets the possibilities of sci-fi. It's not just CGI. It's not just special effects, but it is a chance to implement ideas. I love his stuff. And yeah, of all the films that have come out since we've done this show, I think Blade Runner 2049, I thought, like, man, I would have loved to like really gotten into that on this show. Because at least out here, I mean, that movie came and went in theaters. It was not popular. It was very divisive. Critics loved it, but audiences were like, "This movie's long and weird, and Ryan Gosling keeps his shirt on." I don't know, So like, it didn't really do that well in theaters. But I think it's a masterpiece.
Well, that's the problem. So I'm gonna go loop back to when you were like, "Oh, we were so excited for this movie." in researching, listening back to old episodes, we heard about this movie that we were so excited for called The Happy Time Murders.
Oh boy, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Then I saw a trailer and I'm like, that's all I need to see. I'm good, kids. No, I'm going to go ahead and pass on that.
The scowl on your face is like an instant review. Yeah, and I share the scowl. Yeah, that was terrible.
I never saw it. I don't need to see it. It's funny. Like, we're not, this isn't going to be all Josh remembers all the time, but he was an integral part of the show.
Yeah.
And I have to say, since then, I've jumped into genre films. So, like, one of the film that I think he would have adored more than just about anything else would have been Ready or Not. I don't know if you had a chance to see that.
I did, and I agree with that. I think you really would have dug it.
It's got a dark sense of humor. I know.
Well, no. Yeah, I think you would have loved it. I mean, like, you know, it's an amalgam of everything in pop culture. It's interesting to see Steven Spielberg make that kind of a movie.
He didn't make that. That was Radio Silence.
I thought, you know what? I went to Ready.
You were thinking Ready Player One. Okay, fair enough.
Ready Player One. I haven't seen Ready or Not yet. I hear it's awesome. Yes, I need to see that.
I took Steph. I can get my wife to go see some interesting stuff with me, and she saw the trailer and was like, okay, you're seeing it first. And I had the glorious AMC A-list while it was still around, which was one of the best things ever. I mean, I love the Draft House, don't get me wrong, but there was an AMC like 10 minutes from my house that had Dolby Digital, IMAX, 3D, it had everything in one stop. So it was like I used the heck out of that thing. I went to see the was it The House with the Clock in Its Walls? Not to see the movie on IMAX. I went on a lunch break so that I could watch Thriller in 3D with the remaster.
Nice.
But when I took Steph to see Ready or Not, we ended up... No, I didn't. We went to see Knives Out, and I used that as the opening bit of a double feature before we went to see Knives Out, which works shockingly well as a double feature. I mean, thematically, they're very different. Like the only thread really is that they take place in really old houses. But somehow they work really well together. But yeah, I would highly recommend it. Obviously not while the kiddo is awake.
No, and I suspect I would like it much more than Ready Player One. So yes, I will check it out.
Ready Player One, okay. You know I'm not the biggest Spielberg fan in the world as of right now. Like as a current filmmaker.
I agree. I think his best is behind him. I agree.
Yes, I'll get back to that segue in a minute. But I felt like the movie was the worst version of the book. And it made, like it was like when we saw Hunger Games. I saw the movie and it made me think less of the book.
Yeah.
This is kind of the same thing in that it was a wonderful trip down memory lane. I got that nostalgia bug taken care of. Like I really had just all these wonderful fluffy feelings. And I walked out of the theater and I'm like, that was the definition of cotton candy. There's nothing really to this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think respect, to go with the idea that Josh would have liked it, I think he would have had a lot of fun with that movie. My problem with the film, and maybe I felt the same way, is I felt that the CG characters were so much interesting than any of the human characters.
Yes.
And there's some good actors in that movie, some really good actors, but I didn't care about any of them. I feel like Spielberg, and it's hard for me to say because I love him. I grew up on his movies. Close Encounters, AI are two of my all-time favorites. I love his films. But I feel like ever since Munich, I just feel like he's not that guy anymore. And that's okay. We all grow. But frankly, I just don't find War Horse and The Post and Lincoln all that interesting. I don't think they're interesting movies. I think they're kind of stodgy and dry. So I just think it's unnatural for him to go back to the movies he was making in his 20s because he just doesn't seem like that guy anymore. I think post 9/11, like a lot of this, he has a different perspective on the world and different perspective on history. And that's cool. But at the same time, like when he makes a movie like Ready Player One or Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I just feel like you could feel how forced it is. So not that we want to keep talking about Ready Player One, but that was my feeling towards it too. Like I'm with you. I love Spielberg's movies. But not his new ones. He's got, you see he's got a remake of West Side Story coming out this Christmas. It's like, why are you doing that? Don't do West Side Story. West Side Story was perfect the first time. There's no improving on that.
Yeah.
Remake The Terminal, man. Do that again.
I don't think we need to give that movie any more attention. I'm sorry. I know there are people who love that movie. I'm just not one of them. But speaking of Spielberg, like, there have been a couple podcast stops and starts on my end of things. And my good buddy Rob Stennett, he was a guest a couple times on the show back in the day. He and I were looking at doing a project that I won't divulge because either he might bring it back or we might still do it at some point. But as part of that, I got to knock both Close Encounters and Jaws off my list of shame.
Wonderful. What'd you think?
It made me appreciate Spielberg so much more.
Cool.
Because I like his stuff from like the 90s and whatever. Probably Catch Me If You Can is probably the last movie I really outright adored. But
Great,
Jaws still holds up.
Yes.
Like it's kind of fascinating because, you know, again, I've got a 6-year-old. I'm going through her iPad and I'm trying to filter out what movies she can and can't watch. I'm like, well, let's see. Let's do PG movies and less. And Jaws is PG. And I'm like, that's not going to work. I don't know what to tell you.
55 PG, which is not the same as...
I don't think that really even would qualify as PG-13. Well, it probably would. It's just so tense.
I don't know, man. I got to go with an R. I think Jaws and Poltergeist would be an R. I do, because this is back when there was no PG-13. It was X, R, PG, and G. So I suspect, you know, if clear minds would look at it now, I think it would have been an R. I mean, there's visible nudity in that opening scene. Not that I'm like going frame by frame watching it. Yes,
hey, you can't wear out digital. I'm just saying.
It's that belongs on a T-shirt. Yeah, I know. I mean, there's visible nudity. It's gory at times. You know, Robert Shaw's last scene is shockingly gory. That movie is an R. Poltergeist is an R. I know Spielberg at one point said, like, I don't make R-rated movies. So that was his way of getting all those movies passed. But, you know, he ran out of luck with Temple of Doom, because that's the movie that gave us the PG-13 rating, because Temple of Doom is PG, and today that'd be a hard R. Temple of Doom is grotesquely violent.
Well, and Gremlins had a little something to say about that too.
Yes, it does. Yeah, Gremlins too. Although I prefer Gremlins over those two.
Yes. I guess we can talk. Let me see how much time we have left here. We got about 18 minutes left, because I want to be respectful of everyone's afternoons.
I appreciate it.
We should talk about what this show is going to be going forward.
Okay.
I don't know that we're going to do live streams all the time, just because it's the logistics of the thing, and you're 4 hours behind me right now, I think.
Yes.
And trying to do that on a regular basis would be a bit of a colossal pain in the behind. It's what, almost 10:45 your time?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're 4 hours behind. So we're looking at possibly doing a live stream maybe once a month or so, if there's a demand and an interest in it. Otherwise,
we really want to watch us do this. If you really want to see us sweat, yeah.
So on one hand, I'm like, who wants to watch us? Like, realistically, but at the same time, we're also in a fairly uncertain time. And if we can just, by us joking around and just being schmucks on the internet, it brightens someone's day, I kind of feel like it's worth the time investment.
Absolutely.
But we're probably going to end up knocking out a few episodes at a time and just recording a few times a month. Yeah. And we're not sure about the monetizing thing, all that stuff. Again, if there's interest, if the listenership picks up, we might do some Patreon type stuff. Maybe do live stream Q&As for patrons or whatever. Since we're set up on Twitch and YouTube, both have their pluses and minuses. I can try doing gaming live streaming on Twitch if y'all really want me to. I don't know how entertaining it would be. I have a YouTube clip actually on our channel of just how god awful I am at Call of Duty Warzone. But like if you wanted me to run through some like more story driven games, or even get some people together to do like the Splash Mountain run through of Left 4 Dead, that I could be up for that. But we're just kind of wanting to see what people want to do. I'm working on getting our podcast stream back up and running. It's possible I might just have to release a ScreenGeeks 2.0 podcast feed, and if I do, it's fine. Obviously, I still own the site, so I can just have everything cataloged and then just move forward from there. Trying to think. Yeah, we'll do mailbags. I mean, you can obviously always email us at podcast@screengeeks.com. That's still active. It's been active for the past 8.5 years. I feel spiffy just because I got the dumb little bug down here in the corner working. You can't see it, Barry, because you're not watching the live stream, but in OBS, I see it. Actually, it's more way over there. Okay, there. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah. What do you think about? What do you want to see happen going forward?
Well, I mean, to be like just totally transparent, I mean, this is just so much fun. I miss you, man. I haven't seen you forever. So this is such a kick. You called me a couple of years back. You were doing kind of I don't know if it was ScreenGeeks involved. You had this, I don't know, what was it, where you were going through every movie that came out.
That was the thing I was doing with Rob, and and
I got to chime in on that, and I had a lot of fun doing that. but yeah, the thought of like bringing the Screen Geek show back. I mean, what we used to do was just come up with topics that were interesting to us and kind of rap back and forth and kind of see what people thought, if anybody thought. And obviously we would find moments to put stuff up on the site. You and I are we're as busy as we've ever been, but obviously, this is always such a kick and so much fun, and it's an excuse to just hang out like we always did. It's fun that the clubhouse is open. I'm able to climb up into the clubhouse. So totally. Yeah, man. No, I mean, like if we, I'm cool with certainly just doing this. I agree with you. Like if we're just gonna go through news, it could be, I don't know.
Well, so here's the beautiful thing about the podcast landscape has changed in the past 8.5 years. Like, so Slash Filmcast we used to have pretty much the exact same model. I don't think it was by design or anything, but it was, let's talk about what we've been watching. Let's talk about the news. Let's talk about the theatrical releases, then the DVD releases. Then we take a break. Then we talk about our topic. Then the movie release is coming up and the DVD release is coming up and then feedback. We can cut out all the news, all the releases, and just kind of get to the meat of the thing without feeling obligated to do so. I think it does two things. One, I think it'll make the show flow better. It'll be a heck of a lot easier to keep the show under an hour, which is kind of still a goal of mine.
Oh, yeah.
And two, it makes it more evergreen. Because frankly, I go back and listen to those episodes, I really don't give a crap about what came out that week.
Right. Not only that, like I think there was a segment where it was like, what did we watch last week? And, unfortunately, little overzealous and really loving what we were doing. I think sometimes I would have like 7 or 8 movies I'd want to talk about, and I'd listen to this like, why am I talking about Big Mama's House 2? No one cares about this. I haven't seen it since. What the heck am I listening to this for? Yeah. So no, I agree. If we trim the fat and just get to the heart of it, I think that's as good as it'll ever be.
Even talking about stuff we've watched in the past week or two or whatever, I'm totally okay with that. I think one thing we both agree on a lot is dropping the crap title of the week. If
yes.
it felt a little, especially in retrospect, it felt a little bit too mean-spirited. Like I don't want to dump on a movie. If I go see something and it sucks out loud and I need to take the baseball bat to it, I will in the moment. Sure. But I don't feel like we need to become like the Razzies. Like I see the Razzies list come out every year now, and I just kind of do the Robert Downey Jr. eye roll. Just like, ugh, why did we ever think that was a good idea? So I think we're
all right. At the time, there were so many choices, and I agree with you. I think now, I think to skew positive is definitely better. And as you've said, we don't really need to even find these movies. They just kind of find us. So yeah, I think it's probably redundant to be looking for the crap title of the week because it always finds us. It always tracks us down.
Yeah. And again, there are movies where it's time. I'm sorry, that movie was just so bad. And, like, I hate to say it, Bad Boys for Life, I just was not a fan of.
Yeah, I don't completely disagree with you. For me, it's a guilty pleasure, but it's not a necessary film. It
felt like it was made in the 90s. It really does.
Yeah. It's so forced. There's parts of it I liked. There are moments I liked, but I've never been a fan of the franchise in general. I thought they had a really good first movie, and I thought the second film was atrocious. And for me, the third film is kind of somewhere right there in the middle, but not necessary. But, there's going to be a Bad Boys 4, so what you going to do?
Yeah, I suppose so. In terms of other things we may end up doing, I'm toying with the idea of doing like when I'm going to start writing reviews again. And when awesome. I do, I'm debating putting out a reader edition for the podcast feed. This would probably come more into play if we end up doing like a Patreon at some point, where I'd essentially read the review. So if not everyone has time to go scrolling through and read a full review all the time. But if you put a little production behind it, throw a little trailer audio in, it's something to listen to for 5 or 10 minutes. If that's something that adds to someone else, fantastic. I'm not going to hold you to that because you're juggling like several film-related things now. So I'm not holding you to that. But just kind of curious to see what everyone thinks about what they'd like to see from us going forward.
Yeah, we'd love to. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. We'd love to hear what people want to see, what they love to see us talk about, hear us talk about. If there's a film in particular like that you and I have not seen, and they're like, man, you guys really need to have that experience, I'd be interested in that.
And I'm going to work on getting some interviews rolling. Probably there'll be video interviews that'll go up very similar to this. Awesome. And I know I'm talking with Leonora Ortega from 5 Iron Frenzy, who have very graciously given us our theme music. And she's a producer on a film called Pick It Up, which is about the history of ska.
Oh, fantastic. I'd love to see that.
So, yeah, it's on Amazon Prime now. Oh, not Prime. You can rent it or buy it on Amazon. It's also on Vimeo with extras and all that stuff. If and when that happens, I'll put that up on the YouTube channel probably. and just kind of see what we can do. Just kind of see where this thing goes and just have some fun, like you said. Like, that's the most important thing. The clubhouse is open, and let's have some fun.
Yes, and let me say really quickly, she and I went to college together. It was like the coolest thing that this connection is there. I got to know her for a couple semesters, and I thought she was fantastic and really funny. We had a class together. We'd always like chat whenever we would run into each other during our mandatory chapel chapel appearances, I think on Tuesday afternoon, whatever it was. The punchline is that over time, I mean, she was touring. So she would vanish for like 6 months, and then she'd come back and like, oh yeah, I just came back for this big tour, and then she'd be gone again. So after a while, it was just like, oh man, she's not here anymore. And then I'd be like, reading about, where she was, and she just got too big for my life and anything. But anyway, she's so wonderful and so brilliant, and I was thrilled to death when you told me that, like, yeah, they're allowing us to use their music at the top of the show. So thank you to her and to Five Iron Frenzy in general. They've always been wonderful. So
yes,
it's really cool. In
full disclosure, like, we've become friends. She and I have kind of become friends because I produce her podcast. I edit it and encode it and everything for her show, Too Punk to Be a Hippie. If you want to check that out, by all means do. It's a fun time. I'm actually on the last podcast with her. We're just kind of talking about what's life look like right now with everything going on. It's a very warts and all discussion, which actually I think we both kind of did on purpose, because if there's a time for the facade to not be there of, I've got everything together, let's make ourselves sound as good as possible, it's literally right now.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to throw it out. Is there anyone in the chat room who has any questions before we wrap this up? Because we got about 8 minutes left. If not, no worries. We can kind of button it up. But I think it's probably going to be a couple weeks before we get the actual episode out. Talking about the next film, which I guess I can go ahead and announce now. It's a movie even you were trying to get me to watch for years while we were doing the podcast before, and it just popped up on Disney Plus. What, in the last month?
Yes.
It is the Straight Story, which is great because I made us watch the Elephant Man and revisit that, and you're like, no, you need to see this movie. And now it's so easily available. Hopefully they haven't done any splash type edits to it.
Oh my gosh. When
I knew I was setting something up.
Boy, that's like a whole topic, isn't it? Without getting bunny trailed. I looked at The Straight Story because likewise, I saw it was going to pop up on Disney Plus, and that was my decision to write about it for Maui Time Weekly for my pick for the week. Because as you've indicated, it's very hard to find. Marty, my dear brother Marty, sent me a DVD for my birthday years ago. So I just popped it in and watched it. So I have not looked at it on Disney Plus. I'm assuming, it's rated G for Pete's sake. It's not really a children's film or even like a family-friendly movie, but there's nothing offensive, which is why it merits the G rating. I can't imagine Disney Plus editing it. But then again, I don't know what they were thinking putting Splash on Disney Plus, you idiots. That's a Touchstone film. Touchstone pictures were made to be for adults. There's a whole long library of movies that never should ever show on the Disney Channel, let alone Disney Plus.
It should have gone to Hulu, honestly. That seems to be where their more adult content is going.
Exactly. Oh, it's ridiculous. I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, does anybody remember the opening scene of Splash where John Candy as a boy is throwing pennies underneath women's dresses and he's looking under their dresses for for jokes? Like, this has no business being on Disney Plus. I don't know what they were thinking. It's so ridiculous. Right now, Disney doesn't have Touchstone or Hollywood. They have no adult distributions at all. It's all about children's films. It's all about family movies. So not only do they buy 20th Century Fox, the studio, and they don't know what to do with movies like Fight Club or Naked Lunch. They have no idea what to do with their library. But they got all these movies they can't even show. I mean, I think Roger Rabbit is on Disney Plus. I mean, I'm waiting for someone to complain about Roger Rabbit because there's all sorts of stuff in that movie that's questionable if you're watching it as a family film. And Roger Rabbit was never really a family film, even though kids like it, obviously. But anyway, yeah. I got a lot of bones to pick on Disney.
Well, honestly,
what's going on over there at all.
I really could see Hulu becoming their Touchstone type streaming service because they own it outright now. Yeah. So they're in the process of owning it outright. So the FX on Hulu deal where we're getting Dave and Devs and all these other crazy shows on there, I think it'll make sense. Excuse me. Gotta love being on video live when you can't clear that out and post later. But I think that could definitely end up going a long way. And I have a feeling we might end up digging through just for the fun of it. So I'm going to push, I'll say, to do some of those old wacky live action movies from the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Like Candle Shoe is like a big one I love. I want to revisit that one pretty bad.
Nice. Yeah, they got some stuff like I saw DuckTales the movie. Like I haven't seen DuckTales the movie since it was in the theater. I'm definitely watching DuckTales the movie. Who knows how well it holds up, but yeah, there's some good stuff on there.
Yes, but we have young children. So, I mean, we were just watching it because we wanted to watch it when we were teenagers in our 20s. Now we have an excuse.
That's right. That's right.
Not that we ever needed the excuse. It is just about time, and it's 2:56. Larry D. Quartermain, I thank you both so much for joining us in the chat.
Yeah, thank you.
And this has been a heck of a lot of fun. There will be more coming from us. I don't know when we're going to do it. Part of the reason we don't want to do live streams, I don't want to do live streams more than like once a month or so, is if you and I just crack something out, do 2 or 3 episodes, we can do it like at night. And I don't have to tell everyone in the house, be quiet, because I'm in the basement. I'm sure, as you can tell by the lovely decorations behind me with the stairway and everything, it's just easier to do when everyone else is down for the night. So that's probably a primary reason why we'll do that, but we're open to whatever. But if you want to hit us up, I mean, obviously you can comment on these videos either on YouTube or on Twitch. Email us at podcastbarry or daveall at ScreenGeeks.com because they are all still active. And dude, thanks so much for doing this, man. This has been just so much stinking fun.
Such a pleasure, man.
Yes, and I didn't tell you this beforehand, but we both need to be quiet so that we can play the outro, and then I'll stop the broadcast, and then we can talk some more.
Okay, I'm going to mute myself.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for joining us, folks. We'll catch you next time. Take it easy.
Wash those hands.